So good afternoon. My name is Tokiwa Smith, and I am the Community and Business Engagement Coordinator in the Institute for STEM Education. And what do you all want to know what the Institute for STEM Education does? So we're over in the College of Sciences, and we have the various programs that help with the retention of STEM majors on campus, and we're part of like the bigger picture off-campus Cradle to Career initiative, where we work on getting STEM professionals from pre-K to when they graduate, whether that's undergraduate, associates, or graduate school. And so we have a lot of different programs going on at that. And so the reason that I'm doing this workshop is we're partnering with the Career Center to have different professional development series for STEM majors to help them prepare different things. To help when employers come, when you meet people, that you make a good impression and they want to hire you for jobs, internships, or just to your network. Because sometimes companies aren't hiring, but they know somebody at another company's that hiring and they'll refer you. So we're going to get started on follow-up. These are things that we're going to talk about. Why follow-up is important, different types of follow-up, email, phone, social media, and how do you connect with that. You're going to know how to follow up with people, whether it's a job interview, whether you're meeting them at a networking event, on phone, social media, and email. So name some situations where you would run into STEM employers.
Career field, career fair.
Career fair. So like sometimes they have these meetups on Meetup where they have like different professionals get together. Sometimes you can go to mixers, sometimes on campus workshops. Like Friday there's a workshop that we're sponsoring with a professor at Stanford. So even things on campus. So it's even things you don't think about, like you're specifically meeting an employer, people from different STEM organizations are there that can help you with internships, jobs, and just add to your network. So the main reason why follow-up is important, we meet a lot of people every day, right? And sometimes we don't want to see them again, and sometimes we do. But the importance of follow-up is when you meet somebody in a sort of situation, you want to build relationships with them. Because one of the things that we don't really think about when we think about our career, we think about good grades, internships, but we never think about the importance of building relationships. So why do you think building relationships are important?
To build rapport with the recruiter or people in the field.
Mm-hmm. And how does that help?
Because sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Sometimes who you know and who knows you, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a recruiter and I go to this event and I meet 15 students and you're the only one that calls or emails me, who do you think I'm going to think about when either something's happened at my company or at another company I know? Who am I going to call?
The person that's first on your mind.
First on your mind. And follow-up is how do you get first on the mind. Internships, opportunities, job opportunities, also references sometimes. If you're building a rapport with somebody, if you need a reference letter, if you want to have them double check your resume, there are a whole bunch of reasons in your career why you need to kind of stay in contact with STEM employers. So when we think about STEM employers, sometimes we also think about the person that can hire us right now. But sometimes it's later on during the line or just building your professional network. So here are the 3 keys to follow up. Be polite, be persistent, excuse me, and be professional about it. So I know sometimes with texting, sometimes we'll do like, oh my God, whatever, but it's very important to be professional. So that's why I don't have texting on there because that's something you have to build a rapport and the person will tell you. But more than likely your 2 main ways to follow up is to email, 3, email, social media, and phone. And those will lead to in-person meetings later on. So here's the methods of following up. Excuse me. Email, phone, in-person, and social media. So the in-person ways you can meet are when you kind of send a phone call or email and you schedule a meeting, or you see them at another event and you say, hey, how are you doing? I remember me, I met you. So those are the ways you can start conversations. So there, excuse me, 3 main ways you can follow up via email. So the first one is after a networking event. So we talked about mixers, anything that's not a career fair. So really, you want to say follow up between 1 to 3 business days, because sometimes You just don't have the time, and it's not as urgent. As long as you do it within the next couple of days, you're fine. One of the things you want to do is in the subject, say where you met them. A pleasure meeting you at biotech on this day. And so in that email, you want to recap the conversation, say things that make them remember you, because people meet a lot of people. And if you're a person like me, I probably have to meet you twice to remember your name or need something to jog your memory. And so networking events, people come across a lot of people. So you want to say things that make them jog your memory, which is leading back to when you actually interact with them. Make sure you say something that's memorable. Like either you find something that's in common with them, whether it's your college major, ask them questions, because you want to have something where they may forget you, but in their email, when you follow up, they'll be like, oh yeah, we did talk about that. So I remember a couple of months ago, I met somebody and we followed up because we had a conversation about classic cars. Random, but he remembered it. And so now he's a part of my network and we're talking about different things. So making those personal connections as well as professional connections. And so you recap what you want to say. And then ask for what you want. So is it if you want to find out more about their company, any opportunities, if you want to schedule lunch or coffee, if it's a company that you know is coming to visit, you can ask them what their next time they'll be on campus for interviews. So in that email, just say where you met them, what you talked about, and what you want from that conversation, the next steps. So even if it's, you don't want anything right now, just say it was good to meet you. I look forward to staying connected, and you'll find a reason later to connect. And that's where social media helps a lot. After an interview, so the interview you need to follow up with 24 hours. So ideally, the rule of thumb is by the time that person wakes up in the morning and checks their email, they should have an email from you. So, and one of the reasons you do this is sometimes you want to be quick because sometimes they're interviewing people the next day. They have a whole bunch of interviews. When you're interviewing, you want to stand out, right? So it's pretty much the quickest person to get to the employers, and everybody in the panel will stand out. So typically, since we have these smartphones, sometimes when I interview, I send an email on my smartphone before I leave the parking lot. Another thing, and send an email to everyone that interviewed you. So if there's a panel interview, take everyone's card. Even if you copy and paste the same message, be sure to change the name when you do that. Just make sure everybody gets a personalized email, no group emails. So if you interview 4 people, it could be the same message. Just say, Dear Brad, Dear Sheila, Dear Tom, Dear Joseph, okay? Make sure you email everything because that's important, because sometimes people will interview them, think there's a main person, and really sometimes if there's a panel interview, all of them have input or equal decision-making power in whether you'll get the interview, job, or internship or not. Bless you. Thank them for interviewing. A lot of people forget to say thank you, but no one has to interview you. There are other things they could be doing with their time. I mean, I know we think like they need to fill this position, so they should have interviewed me. But there's some jobs, my best friend has a job where they're just eliminating the position when somebody quit. So you want to thank them for considering interviewing you, making time out of their schedule to interview you. And then highlight your experience. So say, I'm good for the job because of your lab experience, your professional experience. Or if you don't have that much experience, just say, I'm willing to learn. Whatever it is to see your selling point to say, hire me. And the last thing in your follow-up, you want to ask for the next step. So ask them, what's the next process? Are there multiple interviews coming up? When is the time frame you will know yes or no? How will they let you know? Those type of things. So you want to be very clear on, should I contact them again in 2 weeks? Because especially with jobs, you want to have multiple follow-up. So you want to know, like some employers, if you don't get the job, you never hear from them again. But you kind of want to know that so you can know how to use your time and energy. Also, sometimes you just want to have a random follow-up. So say you had an interview and a person was, you seemed like you really had a connection. So if you know in 3 weeks you didn't hear from them, you didn't get the job, well, you can stay connected because something else may come up in their company, something else may come up in another company. So it's really about building relationships to expand your professional network. And then an email introduction. So how many of you all have had somebody like, you got to meet this person professionally? Not yet. Well, there are some situations where people will meet you and feel like you all need to be connected. And they'll usually just do an email intro. So when that happens, and that's going to happen in your career, you hit a reply all, you thank the person for introducing you, you say a pleasure to meet you, and you kind of recap why you think the person's connected, a little bit about yourself. The same thing with those other things, so you're kind of introducing yourself, and then you have the next steps, whether it's, because sometimes people will introduce you to have a job, or here's my resume for the job, or let's set up for coffee or lunch. So the biggest thing when you follow up with email is you're setting up something for the next step, whether forwarding your resume, whether it's meeting the person in person, something so that you can start interacting to achieve your goals. So for different interactions, sometimes the goal is just building a relationship with somebody at that company. Sometimes the goal is getting a job or internship. Sometimes the goal is getting the interview or finding out. So whenever you do that follow-up, look and say, why am I emailing this person? What do I want from this email correspondence? What's the final goal? Okay? So the next activity. So what you're going to do is pick one of these scenarios, at least two of the four, and you're going to sketch your email to the person. Okay. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to put you on the spot, is each of you all stand right there and read one of your emails. And the rest of us are going to critique it. So we're going to say what is good, what needs improvement, and you can't say what needs improvement unless you have a suggestion for improving it, okay? So who wants to go first? And tell us your scenario before you...
For the job interview, I just email them, I appreciate you taking the time to interview me. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay.
That was as brief as I could get.
I think it went well, and he said that he was nice and like thanking him for actually interviewing him and taking his time.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions for what needs improvement?
Maybe just say why he would be good for the job.
I think probably will show you a company or something like to say you really want the job. I hope to look at the email back then.
So I have the same follow-up. You did a good job by saying thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. But you need to mention why you want the job and why you're awesome. So not those words.
Yeah.
Don't say this is why I'm awesome, but recap your skill sets, recap why you're so interested, you know, if you want to like have something about the company. So
Got it.
I'll email you back. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I did that after the job interview too.
Okay.
And I just put thank you for having the time to interview me. It was a pleasure. I believe that even though I don't have much experience, I'm very willing in learning how your company works. I would provide excellent services and you won't regret it.
Okay. What do you think?
It was pretty good. I guess just the word regret is probably not the one thing you want them to think about when you're reading an email.
So no negative terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the regret has a negative connotation, so they're like, wait, why should I regret it?
Another thing that I would think about too, like, so say, even if you may need development in the skills of that company, you do have some skills. So think about skills that are like transferable skills. So like if you're flexible, if you're organized, so those type of things you can use when you don't have like that much specific experience for the job. Because you want them to think you have some skills, or you're going to say, I'm willing to learn, I'm adaptable, you know, those type of things, so they can see, okay, she may not know much right now about our field, but you're going to train her. Because any job, they're going to train you.
Yeah, I would add to that, just like being able to take that weakness and making it into a positive. Because it's like, even when you're like in an interview, they're like, all right, what are your weaknesses? And you talk about them, but you're like, well, I struggle in this, but this is how I'm making this better. So just definitely highlighting that you like are willing to learn new things and that you are flexible and all those different things. So that way you're like, okay, like I clearly don't know things, but I can learn things, which is an attribute that they would have rather appreciated.
Because sometimes it's not like you don't know anything, you just don't know things specific to that job. And those are totally two different things.
I choose after the job interview, so I read, hi, like the person interviewed me, but thanks for replying my email. It's really happy to talk with you. I hope I did well during the interview. However, I'm kind of nervous when talking with you, but I like this position very much. And I'm really sure I can do really well, and I'm waiting for your response, and have a nice day.
Okay. So what went well? It's
She
good.
appreciated that they took their time to talk to her.
Okay.
She said, have a nice day.
Yeah.
So she's very polite in the email.
Okay. Anything that needs improvement?
Can't think of anything right now.
Okay, so I would think the same thing. Everybody's nervous, so never say you're nervous, okay? So just, you want to highlight your strengths and what went well. So you can say, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to me, you know, you can, so say sometimes you're nervous, you may forget stuff. So if you're really nervous, you're going to forget stuff. So add something that you may have forgotten that's easier for you to do in writing. So say, well, I didn't mention this during the interview because sometimes when you're nervous, you forget stuff. But these are my skills, this is da-da-da. So, because I've been nervous before and you do forget stuff. And so, if your nervousness made you like, man, I should have said that, I should have said that, because that's what it sounds like from the tone of your email. You can go back and recoup that in your email.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Overall, y'all did a good job for the letter. Yes.
Can you give us a specific example on how to work on like a weakness or mention a weakness or follow up on something they talked about in the interview?
Okay.
Because this is kind of general. I'm not sure exactly what to follow up on other than this general convo right here.
Okay, so say, for example, this is the first thing I can think of, right? So say you have a position that says you need somebody that has strong analytical chemistry skills, right? Well, if you have never taken an analytical chemistry class, you've only taken general, you can say, well, I have these lab skills, right? And so that can show that you have some lab experience and you're familiar in the lab and you just need training. So that's how you turn it around. So if you don't have the specific skills that they're looking for, then you can highlight the skills that you do have that may be connected.
Wouldn't that be mentioned in the interview though? Or wouldn't you bring that up within the interview?
You recap the interview because more than likely you're not the only person they're interviewing. So your follow-up after interview is, thanks for the interview, this is what we talked about, consider me.
So we can still reiterate what we already mentioned in the interview.
Yes, just make it brief. So don't make it like.
Yeah, I'm not. Redo the interview.
Don't send them in here. My train of thought is pick 2 to 4 things that you really want to highlight and leave it at that. If you put no more than 4, you'll be okay. If you feel like you're kind of like 4 is not enough, no more than 6, but bullet them,
Okay.
and that'll help.
And if they had concern with the interview, I can just reiterate on here about, if you had a concern about me not knowing Java, I did this .jar file, .jar
I wouldn't
project.
say if you had a concern because they may not remember they had a concern.
Okay.
So you want to follow it, any negative from the follow-up, okay? So like say, for example, I don't know programming, but say you don't know Java, right?
Yeah.
But there's something similar to Java. Highlight what you do know, right? Because somebody that may know something may be like, okay, if they know this, then they can be taught this. But nothing negative, all positive.
Yeah, okay, if you just say like, okay, I did this project in, Java right here. I did a
Yeah.
project similar to Java, just to let you know, here's the file uploaded, to show them what the file is
You
there.
don't do attachments, you can do links and bullets,
Okay.
but people aren't gonna open attachments when you send the follow-up. If
Okay.
they wanna send something, they'll ask you to send it. They just wanna open it and say, oh, this person said thank you, oh, this is what we talked about. Okay, this candidate sent a thank you, this one didn't.
Okay, that's the link to like the,
Yeah, you can put
Projects,
links
yeah.
if you want to, but no attachments. So good job. So we're gonna go to the next one with the phone. So I know we all don't make phone calls, but here's the thing, you have to know your audience. Some people prefer phone calls. Sometimes you do an email and phone call because sometimes people feel like if you do two communication attempts that you really, really want the job. So when you do a phone call, or people will say, call me, right? So when you do a phone call follow-up, make sure that you know why you're calling. So never be like, I'm just gonna call this person just because I have the card. Know what you're going to do. Know if you want to schedule a lunch meeting, know if you want to find more about their company, know all of that, okay? And be yourself. I know sometimes you're like, oh, I need to do this. But ultimately, the real you is going to come out. Remember, because the whole thing about follow-up is building relationships.
Still be professional, right?
Still be professional. Be your professional
I
self.
can't just be like, hey, bro,
No.
how you doing? Yeah.
Be your professional self. We have our professional hat on, okay?
Okay.
I know, no bro, no what's up, no, you know,
Yeah.
hi, how you doing? Thank you
No,
so
hey.
much. No, hey, no, all right then, you know, none of that. Okay, and then prepare a script. So I can tell you a situation I did a couple of weeks ago. There was somebody I needed to talk to. I knew that they were busy, like this is gonna be my one shot. So I picked a couple of questions that I wanted to ask them. You know, when you're introducing yourself, say like 3 or 4 things you want to say. Because 1, people don't stay on the phone very long. 2, if they're going to extend some phone time to you, you want to be ready for that. So make sure you ask open-ended questions. Make sure it's conversational. So although it's a professional setting, you can make it seem like you're talking to one of your friends because that make it less nervous, right? But still be professional where you come prepared because what I found out, especially when you're talking to employers, sometimes when you're following up, it's another informal interview, whether it's your interview for a position, interview where your people want to add you to their network, right? Because sometimes you have a good phone call. They'll be like, there's nothing in my company, but I have a friend at this another company and they can connect you to. So you're always on. Your goal is through all of your communications to impress. So people want to add you to their network. They want to keep you in their contact list, okay? And ask for what you want. So if your next step is, can we have lunch? Can I have the interview? Can we talk again? Make sure before they hang up on you that you ask for what you want, okay? So we're going to do another activity. You're going to have a sketch of what your phone call is, your script for your phone call. And then you can practice with each other about your phone call, okay? So the 2 of you can partner and I'll partner with you, okay? Okay. So I'm going to give you the option. You can either practice with your partner and get feedback, or you can come up and read yours and get feedback from the whole group. Which one you want to do?
One-on-one.
Okay.
Are you doing it?
With one of them, yeah.
Wait, we were supposed to do only one.
Was only one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, I kind of know what to read, so I just kind of, I was like, I'm just calling in order to thank you for taking the time to interviewing me. I appreciate it. Although I do want to know more about your company, and I said there have been no questions, and I well, thank you for your time. I am hoping we can move on to the next step. Thank you. Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay. That is great. So
Mine was for like
my
after
question to you
job
is
fair.
why do you want to set up
I was
another
like, hey,
phone
this is
call? You want
Ritesh
to
from
see if you can
blah,
get more
blah.
time,
I just
like
wanted
you're
to
just
ask
looking
if
at their
you knew
car.
any new employment opportunities. I have experience in X, Y, Z, so I was hoping you could know if an opportunity to make those skills relevant for you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you should add like the interviewing part too. Like, oh, we should interview
Okay.
or something.
So it's kind of like you saw
But I
the
mean, I'm
card
not sure if
from
the
the
guy
job
is
fair.
actually
You want
like
to
a
call him
recruiter.
soon after.
Oh, he interviewed that.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, it's a job fair, so.
Oh, I thought
Okay.
that, okay, we
That's
just
good.
asking you like, oh.
So I'm gonna do mine.
Transfer me to,
Those
or
people,
like,
Okay.
connect me to the real one or something.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Hello,
That's good
Sally.
though.
We met
Yeah.
at Bernard connected us. He thought that it would be good because we're doing similar work. Is it okay if I schedule a time for us to meet for coffee or lunch? You can meet office so we can kind of learn more about each other's organizations.
I could probably ask them even in the next job fair that would be
Yeah. That'd be good too.
Okay, great. So do you feel like you got enough feedback from your partner? So we're gonna go to the last thing, which is social media follow-up. So in the recent years, in order for you to have your career, you have to have some type of web and social media presence. Most people in a professional setting are comfortable with LinkedIn, Google Plus sometimes, and Twitter sometimes. So the good thing about Twitter is that you can have build relationships through Twitter chats that are in your field. So the first rule of thumb in social media is ask if it's okay. So if you don't get a chance to do it in person when you're meeting them, sometimes people say, let's connect on LinkedIn. If not, then just send them a message. In LinkedIn, you can send them an email, like from your email address, but LinkedIn allows you to send a message.
Would
Yes.
it be more assertive to just say, why don't we connect on LinkedIn or just ask?
You can say that. That's you asking.
Okay. I mean, like, not asking, like, can we connect? It would be like, let's connect on LinkedIn.
Yes, you can say that, and they'll say no or yes. Some people are very protective about their social media and who they let in, so it's okay to say, can we connect? Or
Or
let's
just be like,
connect.
what's your LinkedIn?
Let's connect is better.
Okay.
And then use their preferred platform. So people will tell you, connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Twitter. Not that many people are using Google Plus, but they'll tell you. And then find ways to stay connected. So the thing in the past couple of months, LinkedIn sends you information about birthdays, job promotions. So every time your LinkedIn comes up and it has that person's name, send them a message. Have thumbs up. All social media platforms read through their profile. So either like or share what comes in or retweet. So those are the way you can stay connected, so you can always stay on people's mind. And that's a good thing with social media, right? They may not have time to interview, but you stay on their mind. Because actually, excuse me, I was able to get a contract for something just because I had stayed connected with somebody in social media. And I hadn't seen or talked to them in 2 years. But they were like, oh, I followed you on LinkedIn. Oh, I saw that you liked this, or I saw that you shared, or thank you for sending a note. So that's the way you can stay connected and build professional relationships. So this is only going to take a minute, because all you're going to do is say what social media you're going to connect with them and your strategies for staying connected. So remember, we have 3: LinkedIn, Google Plus, and Twitter. Most people leave Facebook for their personal relationships. So say Brandy interviewed you. So you're going to say, I'm going to stay connected with Brandy via LinkedIn. And then how you're going to do that?
Just like one sentence, like.
One sentence bullets.
Yeah, so if I said, like, I'm going to connect with Tokiwa via Twitter, I will send her a direct message, or I'll just follow her and then retweet maybe something pertaining to the field we're both in that she posted.
Or see what Twitter chat she participated in. So I'm going to start first, okay? So I met Greg Bradley. Greg Bradley is the VP of research at a large chemical company. He told me to connect with him on Twitter. So I'm going to follow him on Twitter. I'm going to retweet his stuff. I'm going to tag him on articles that is important to him, that are connecting our industry. And then I noticed that Greg has a weekly chemistry chat, chem instrumentation chat. So I'm going to participate in that chat every week, and that's how I'm going to stay connected with Greg.
Yeah, I just right now because I like your post on the Twitter and I follow you.
Okay, sure. But math people follow me on LinkedIn. I can do Twitter too, but LinkedIn is all professional. My Twitter has a mix of stuff. But nothing like, here's my rule of thumb for social media. Even in my personal, I don't post anything that I wouldn't tell anybody in the elevator.
Don't put anything incriminating either.
Well, you wouldn't tell a stranger in an elevator something incriminating, would you? So, me, you can connect me on Twitter. I'll write it down, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Okay.
I put the Twitter one too, and I said like the tweets and like reposting and stuff like that.
Okay.
And just LinkedIn, asking for a person's LinkedIn or connecting with them through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Is it also possible to just add people that they also may know?
You can, but I would send a note. Because more than likely, right now, I have 6 LinkedIn requests from people I don't even know, and I'm not going to accept you. So people will accept you or decline you on LinkedIn. Okay. So, any questions?
Is that the only social media, Twitter and LinkedIn, or?
Google Plus.
Google Plus. And
Google
still
Plus. I mean, there are a whole bunch of things, but when you think about where it stays professional, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus. Some people have professional Instagrams,
I was about to ask
but
that.
Instagram gets a little
Instagram
suspect.
is mostly photos though.
Yeah.
So like it's like, oh, look at this cool picture of maybe the place you work at, but it's not necessarily a
You can't have a
tool to-
conversation
Yeah,
to
you're
build
not
a relationship.
speaking.
So you're just sharing photos. So you can like people's photos, but
Some Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook.
no,
No
definitely not
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
No Snapchat.
Definitely not Snapchat.
Snapchat is personal.
All personal.
I mean, I think they're trying to make a move for it to be a little bit.
Yeah, because they're trying to add more social media.
Yeah,
into
they've
it.
been doing more stuff on it, but I will say currently, just don't even.
No.
Also, if you're doing Snapchat, it usually means you have that person's number, which means you probably should be talking to them on the phone.
Because remember, we're talking about professional settings, right? And so, at sometimes it may merge into a personal relationship, but 8 times out of 10 it's going to stay professional. So you want to keep it professional.
I was thinking like Snapchat, if you add them, if you have their number, you can add them and just have professional stories for them to look at.
I don't know anybody that does professional stories on Snapchat. I mean,
Okay,
like,
I mean,
to be honest, most
it will
of a
take
lot of
some-
wretchedness happens on Snapchat.
Yeah, you might have to put a facade on for like a week, but
Just keep it on LinkedIn and Twitter or Google Plus. You're safe. You don't have to worry about if you edit your Snapchat or, all those kind of things. I'm going to put my Twitter handle. I don't know LinkedIn, but you can find me on LinkedIn. So if you find me on LinkedIn, I want you to practice a message to me on why I should connect with you. And this is my Twitter handle. I don't really put nothing on there. Because that's my rule of thumb. If I wouldn't tell a stranger in the elevator, I'm not going to put it on social media.